Good evening. Welcome to Cocktails and Vinyl. Cheers. Tonight we have with us Michael Edwards. How are you, Michael?
Good. How are you, Kirk? How's it
I'm
going?
just hanging
Adam.
out.
I always call you Kirk. I don't know why.
It's okay. I'm always hanging out,
You,
making it
you go
happen.
by any name.
Almost. It just depends on where you put the comma. Yeah. Um, we had some crazy weather today and Sunday, but seems like we're back at it now and making it happen. Yeah.
Yeah, just looking out the window, it's not pouring here. It did earlier for sure.
I know. I went to Wake Forest today to pick up some stuff to ship, and I was looking at the weather app, timing I can leave now, or I can leave in 30 minutes. Just trying to make it happen and cool things like that. Yeah. But hey, thanks so much for joining us for Cocktails and Vinyl. Michael's going to show us some cool records that he enjoys listening to, and Michael, I'm sure you probably have a story or two about those records. I love hearing stuff like that.
One or 10, yes.
One or 10. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
And if people are looking at the background, you can probably guess what some of the records are going to be. I think we did, was it Coffee and Vinyl about a year ago, a little over a year ago now.
It was,
and taught some Kiss records, and I had a bunch that I didn't get to, so I pulled some out tonight and a few other things as well. So just wanted to show a few things, different vinyl that I've gotten over the years. And actually this first one came courtesy of Kirk. And this was at the Record Crate. He got this one in, and he calls me and says, I have this really terrible sounding Kiss record. Do you want it? And it really doesn't sound bad. I mean, you have to remember this was a private recording from 1974. I think it was 74. Yeah, 74, 75. I think it's 74, May 31st, 74. So this is actually, yes, it's not the best recording. It's not going to sound like something that was recorded in a studio, but it is also the very first Kiss bootleg album that was ever released, which was called Fried Alive. And there are various variants of it, or there's a lot of different types. This record was released several times, and this is one of the old school bootlegs that has the white cover that just has a paper insert kind of glued to it. So this was how they did them back then. I don't even think there's much on the back, but someone very industriously made a label for the white label here on this one and wrote the song titles. So this is one variant of that record. And then not very long after this, I'd never gotten these. I actually really was never into collecting Kiss bootleg vinyl. I have a bunch of CDs. In fact, the CD rack you can see there behind me is all Kiss stuff. So I have something around 500 Kiss CDs, and a lot of them are boots, of course. And I was into that more than the vinyl. But got this one, and I've gotten a few more over the years. And so at a record show not long after, picked up a different variant of this album.
Oh boy, yeah.
And so this one's kind of cool. It's on a multicolored vinyl,
Is it the same track listing?
It's the same song, the exact same album, just a different vinyl pressing. And so I think they were all pretty much pressed around the same time. So they weren't they just, like now where they come out with 10 different colors of vinyl. They kind of did this back then too. Both of these first Kiss bootleg ever released was the Fried Alive record. So I threw those out there to show. To start with, there's not all bootlegs tonight. Hi, Mick from Arizona.
Yeah, let's say hey to Mick, and let's say hey to James. And James is joining us from Mexico. James, I got to teach you how to go crate digging in Mexico and find some really cool records for us. Yeah, but thanks for joining Mick, and thanks for joining James. Yeah, a lot of times those photocopy or those Xerox copy that has Kiss on it, was not always glued to the jacket.
Yeah, sometimes it was just stuck in there.
Yeah.
It depends. So the other one I wanted to bring up, this is actually one that Kiss has been doing a lot of colored vinyl reissues in the last little while, for the last couple years, actually about 4 years, I guess now. In 2014, they reissued all of their albums, actually. as part of their 40th anniversary. And honestly, all of those 2014 pressings have become pretty hard to find now. Some of them, a couple of them are still in print. A lot of them are not, or they're not technically out of print, but there's just not many around anymore. Yeah, the shipping would kill you from Mexico, I know. And also it takes a long time. I ordered a CD from there one time and it took about 4 months to get here. It got here though. But anyway, they've been doing the Kiss has been doing a lot of these colored vinyls. And so they've done anniversary editions is kind of what they're starting, or they started to do. And, you know, they did and they're kind of hit and miss as far as the value. But last year in March, they announced that they were doing a 45th anniversary of Dress to Kill, and which was going to be on red vinyl. And previously, the records, the colored vinyl reissues, had been available through multiple channels. Not like your typical dealers, but like they did have a couple places you could get them. This one was only on their website that you could order. And it was like, oh, well, that's weird. Maybe it's just taking it a while to show up in other places. So kind of held off, or I did. A lot of people did, I think, held off on ordering it. And after a while, it's like, okay, they're not obviously going to put it anywhere else. I'll just order it from them because I don't like their shipping prices on their website. But anyway, this was there were supposed to be, I think, 4,000 of these pressed, and this was COVID times. The vinyl pressing got delayed quite a bit, and actually only about 300 of these were made. So this became, in 2020, one of the rarest Kiss records available, period. So what happened with these as well, so it's just, you know, it's a pretty red. It's a really nice translucent red vinyl. Nothing special though. I mean, just you know, it is Dress to Kill, so it has the nice embossed cover. They redid all of that, you know. But basically what they did with these is they took the 2014 masters and just pressed them on colored vinyl, stuck a sticker on it. So it was more of a, yeah, I'll get it. But this one wound up, like I say, being only about 300 copies made, and is quite valuable now. So, and actually what happened is a lot of people ordered them and they got canceled. So their orders were, you know, they got an email saying, sorry, we're not going to get this and we're canceling it. And so originally they were saying, oh, they're going to finish the pressing out, and it wound up they didn't. So this was, like I said, the estimate is about 300 copies of this got out. If you got your order, you were very lucky, and I happened to. So,
yeah, I got a few calls.
Yeah.
Hey, and cool things like that. Hey, let's say hello to Adam. How are you doing, Adam? And Art, how are you doing tonight, Art? And then Sean says howdy. Howdy, Sean. Yeah.
So yeah, hi everybody. If y'all got that, if you were lucky enough to get that one, it's about a $600 to $700 record now in just less than a year. So kind of crazy. And especially for a new, not so exciting pressing. So another one that I thought I'd bring out, and sometimes you just like records as far as, you know, value is okay on them maybe, but there's certain records that I've picked up over the years that, you know, or that one of the things, this is one that a lot of Kiss fans know, I'm sure, the originals. It's not very common. This is one of my better copies. I have a couple copies. This is actually a second printing. It's actually printed right on there, second printing, which is unusual as well. But this one came out in early 1976, right after Destroyer, kind of as a stopgap. But basically, Alive had sold very well. So they said, well, the first 3 albums didn't sell that well. Let's repackage them and stick some memorabilia in it and sell it as the original. So, you know, this was one of the first great Kiss marketing schemes, I think, was this record. And it actually was really hard to find, or it is really hard to find. You can find them. They're not super expensive. I just think it's cool. And it was one of those that I never got as a kid. So I got into Kiss really early and had a bunch of had all of their albums except for basically this one. I never got this one because it was not available. It pretty much sold out what they made. So they weren't, you know, and at the time you didn't find used vinyl as much as you do now. And so it came with some cool little inserts. You can kind of see them in here. There's a book. There's a little sheet of perforated cards that are in there, and there's a sticker, which probably doesn't stick very well anymore after 45 or so years. But this record, just one I like. Like I say, it's not super hard to find. Pretty hard to find in good condition because this jacket held 3 LPs and all this other crap that they put in it. So a lot of times the spines and stuff will be really crap, really beat up on these, or the cover itself will have really bad ring wear. So it's tough to find one that's nice. And, anybody that probably is looking for vinyl records or has vinyl that they hunt down will tell you, you wind up getting a couple copies sometimes because you're kind of trying to find that elusive, better quality copy. So this is probably my best one of this one. Tough one to find in good shape and not one that comes up very commonly anyway.
Hey, Katie, how are you doing tonight?
Hi, guys. So, and these are kind of in chronological order because that's just how I pulled them out of my bin back here. So this is another one that's not too hard to find, but I like it. It's the Japanese pressing of Rock and Roll Over, and I'm not going to be taking a lot of these out of the sleeve tonight, but because they're a pain to put back. But this one I like because the Japanese albums for Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over, and Love Gun are all gatefolds. And so this is actually the only one that has a photo in it. This photo was, I would assume, taken on the Destroyer tour, but that was a cool pressing for me. I like the gatefolds. I like that they're unique to Japan. Obviously the OBs and all of that stuff are cool too, but the Destroyer and the Love Gun gatefolds are really just reproductions of the US inner sleeves. So they're not very exciting. This one was cool though, because it had a photo in it. So like that.
Hey Glenn, how's it going tonight? And Katie says, I'm well. I'm glad you can make it too, Katie. Thank you so much.
Glad you're here.
What's those little round stickers in the top right corner? They're white?
That's a good question. So the round stickers correspond with what I call the If I Die list. So I have a spreadsheet where they're all kind of like detailed out, like what pressing it is, what's in there, what the estimated value would be as far as the starting price or whatever, or, so if I die, you can sell it for around this. So it's honestly, it was the easiest way. I didn't want to print out big labels and stick them on there. So they're these little garage sale labels that are stuck on the plastic, not on the vinyl, of course. But are just stuck in here. And then this number, so this is RR001, Rock and Roll Over 01, that corresponds with the list. And I have this obsessive compulsive, Excel spreadsheet.
Is it just for your KISS?
Yes. The list I do have, and I'm going to show, I promise I have some other stuff here. I'm going to show a couple other rare records that I have listed, but they're not that hard to distinguish between. Whereas if I have 5 copies of Alive, it's hard to tell which one's the original pressing versus the one that's, been skated on or whatever. So, or the rarer, newer pressing or whatever, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So.
Hello, Tony. How are you tonight? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Dio. You've ordered a Rock and Roll Over Japanese copy. You will love it. It's great. I gotta say, if you collect vinyl to listen to it and to, if you want to me, you should invest, especially with KISS, in the Japanese pressings. That should be the first thing you go to. They're all better than all the American pressings, and not only for the quality of the covers is a lot, they're thicker, the vinyl itself sounds much better. The Japanese copies, and there's a lot of unique things in Japanese releases. So this one's one I showed. Speaking of and a teardrop copy, so that's a Rock and Roll Over, the teardrop. For what, if you don't know what that means, there's a variant of the Rock and Roll Over cover where right under Paul's eye, there's a blue printing error and it looks like a teardrop. So it's called the teardrop version of it, which is not it was not intended to be a variant, but I believe those are Columbia Record House versions. I think those are what came out as those variants, but You'll find those, and because it's known as a variant, they can go very, can be expensive to find.
I think they look great with a teardrop. Glenn says my 6th grade talent show, they had a KISS group. You're 54. Were you part of the? What character did you play, Glenn?
Yeah, exactly. Who were you? And speaking of Japanese albums, so I showed the originals, and this is one. This was kind of my holy grail finding record here, as far as not holy grail that I thought, but it was one I didn't think I'd ever own, especially as a child. RCA Club. Okay, thanks, Dio. That was the RCA Record Club pressings had the teardrop for our Rock and Roll Over. So this is the originals 2, only released in Japan. Had not you, Glenn, others. At least you got to enjoy it, right?
Absolutely.
Or not enjoy it, depending on if you like them or not. So this is this one came out in Japan only. It was, as you can imagine, it was the sequel. So it was the next 3 studio records. So it was Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over, and Love Gun. It was released for the Japanese tour. So KISS toured Japan for the first time in 1977. They were very big there. It went over quite well. So they booked another tour in 78 where they actually went back and just played 5 nights in Tokyo. And as a part of the promotion for that tour, they reissued the 3 albums as the originals too. Never came out anywhere else. As you can see, the artwork is kind of Japanese inspired. It's very, very Japanese. Has some cool inserts. I'm not going to take all those out, but this one is a really difficult record to find. It's not impossible, but you're going to pay for it if you find it, to have all the stuff in it. And so that's one of the cool. And that one for me was a big one. Like, that was one of those, okay, I'm actually a grown up now. I can afford to buy this record, after.
So how would you say and that's cool, Glenn, that they had the blood caps. I bet they were all over the place.
I bet the school staff was thrilled with that, cleaning that up off the stage.
There you go. How would you say the sound is different for the Japanese pressings versus American pressings?
They just tend to be, I think, a little fuller and a little less noise and things. Now, part of that could just be, as a rule, we were actually talking about this right before we went on the air. As a rule, KISS fans were pretty rough on their records. And there's a lot of times you'll find a record from, the American pressings are pretty beat up. And Japanese fans are, oh, wow, it was a Catholic school. That's awesome. But, so Japanese records tend to be in better shape. People over there took care of them, I guess, a little bit more. And so that's part of it, is just the condition tends to be better. But the sound and for me, too, there's the quality of the covers themselves. And I think that probably helps them sound better because they're more protected and more, they've lasted a long time. And you just get cool stuff with, like, the inserts. Opening up the inserts and reading the English from Japanese translations of the lyrics is hysterical sometimes, just because, either whoever did it wasn't sure, or the actual literal translation is just a little bit different for, because, like any language, English has words in it that they don't quite have in Japan. So in Japanese, so they try to make the best they could of it. So sometimes reading it, and it's really funny too, because like on the live records, all of Paul's dialogue between the songs is written out. So you get to read all of the, let's have a rock and roll party tonight and all that stuff. So it's kind of fun.
That is fun. Yeah.
So I'm going to throw up another recent one here. So I said they've been doing colored vinyl reissues. Well, they did a special picture disc of double platinum.
Oh, boy.
One, I have to say, probably the coolest album cover ever made, at least in my opinion, this Mylar double platinum, the original one. I think this is probably not Mylar, the new pressing, because I know but it may be, but it's a really cool cover, just a silver. This is a newer pressing. This just came out last year. So that's one of the reasons it looks very clean. These are tough to find without a lot of ring wear. They got a ton of ring wear on these because that silver foil got really really beat up. So they only made 500 of these, and they're picture disc. The artwork I think is pretty terrible. So this is the Paul side. Each side has a different member on it and a different terrible artwork. One of the things with this that seems to be pretty common now, and it goes back to, I think mainly they're just cheap, but also the differences between, you know, these records are coming out through Universal. They're not really putting them out, even though they're the exclusive distributor of these newer colored vinyl records. So they obviously have an interest in it, but you will not see any new photographs right now on anything. I don't know if that will change if they get to do some stuff, but and I'll step out of order for a minute here to so this is the double platinum. Like I say, this is artwork. They claimed based on an ad. It's really not. It's kind of based on an ad that came out in the 70s. But basically, they were too cheap to use photographs or buy photographs from anybody, new ones, like licensed new photography. And they may not have either. They don't have the rights to them, or, you know, anytime you put photos on stuff, you have to pay for it, of course. And so we did a reissue of an Eric Carr record last year, and we wanted to use one of the photos we wanted to use for like the insert, which was, you know, 12 or 11 by 11, so fairly good size picture. We wanted to use it, though it was on the inside, not on the cover, just as an insert, and we wanted to license it from Niels Lozauer, who was the photographer, and it was about $500 just to do that for one photo for a record we made. I forget, but like 1,500 copies of it. Wasn't many. So, and it was very split, you know, it was very, very outlined what we could do. We couldn't use the image on social media to promote the record. We couldn't, you know, use it on the cover. We could only make so many copies. So you can imagine trying to license some of these photos, because photographers aren't making any money off new pictures now. So they're having to make money off their old ones. So to that end, Kiss has announced, and we're very excited about this as fans, this new Off the Soundboard series. This just came out a week or so ago. This is the colored vinyl version. There's a black vinyl too, but the absolute worst crap packaging ever made. And, you know, of course, I am not one of the most ardent Kiss apologists who says they do no wrong. This is absolute shit, in my opinion, as far as artwork. And I love the guy that does the artwork. He did this. He had no choice. But, you know, a lot of the Kiss fans are, oh, it's this classic bootleg look. It's like The Who live at Leeds. It's like Aerosmith's live bootleg, you know. Well, guess what? When you opened those records up, you saw a picture of the band. One of the most visual bands in the world, not a single photo to be found in this packaging. It's basically brown cardboard. Shit, I'm sorry. But great record, great sounding, great show from a lineup that wasn't really well represented. They weren't around very long. This one's from 2001, which happened after Peter Criss left their farewell tour. So Eric Singer actually came back in. So it's Paul, Gene, Ace Frehley, and Eric Singer, which was a lineup that didn't last very long. And that was one of the excuses. Oh, we didn't have many pictures from that era. If you go on Kiss Online, well, if you've ever visited, it's a fascinating place. It's a website called archive.org that archives old websites. Look up Kiss Online from around April of 2001. There are literally thousands of photos from that tour that their webmaster took. So they should on them. It shouldn't be that freaking hard to put a photo on it. So good sounding, worth getting for the, or I would say, you know, if you collect vinyl, get it. But otherwise, just listen to it. It's not worth the packaging. Crap packaging.
Let's take a look at some of these comments. Hello, Jerry. Sean says, always laugh.
Yes. Well, okay, so that's a great question or great comment, Sean. And part of that reason is Gene always claimed that he invented this, right? No, he didn't. One, on the cover of Love Gun, he's doing this, and he claims, which is the sign for I love you. One, it's a painting. It's not like Gene stood there and he just, and he's like, oh, I had to hold my my pick to my bass, so it was a way I could wave at fans, and I invented this, and then Dio stole it, and it's not the case. I mean, it's an old Italian, like it's like giving the evil eye or whatever. This is warding it off. This is giving it. So Ronnie James Dio, who got it from his grandmother, who I dare say was a little older than fucking Gene Simmons, was always like, so it wasn't that he, I don't think Ronnie disliked Gene, but he thought it was funny that he, you know, Gene would be, and Gene never changes his story, no matter how many times he's proven wrong. So he would always, I mean, Gene would tell you to this day he invented this. He did not.
Yeah. So with me tonight is Michael. Glenn is Swamp Picker. So Jerry's saying, you look familiar, Michael.
From record shows, probably Raleigh. I've been to some. I don't know about Charlotte. Maybe Charlotte. So, yes, the CD is a good CD. I will say the show is great. Yes, these off the sound. And so here's the thing too. We've been waiting forever for Kiss to do, you know, like live releases or really anything new. This is the first actual new Kiss music to come out since 2012 and Monster, which so then the you know, especially a classic show or an older show where they sounded good and everything is something we've wanted for a long time. So, and they're going to be putting out more of these. Apparently it's supposed to be a series. In fact, the hype sticker says the first authorized Kiss live bootleg series. So maybe there'll be more. This particular show also came out on a bootleg, well, not a bootleg, an unauthorized CD. So there's some CDs that have been coming out of Europe in the last few years. The Ritz 88 show is one that's really common, 1988. This Tokyo 2001 was also one. So I think they were kind of smelling like, okay, there's stuff coming out that they weren't really entitled. They're not, somehow the rights, especially overseas, it's okay to put this out because you'll find them on like commercial websites. They're not just like in the underground. And so I wonder if the next one they'll do will be the Ritz from 1988 to try to undercut the bootleggers, right?
So is it the same source that you heard before?
It is not. This source is much better. Yeah. So this source is a lot better source. So it sounds great. No problems with the and yeah, Kiss is on the way in August. It'll be a fun show. I'm going. I'll enjoy it, I'm sure. How many times have I seen Kiss? I think this will be in August 28th, something around there. So not a ton. But like, there's a lot of, and the other thing, if you're a Kiss fan, of course, this Sunday night on A&E, they're starting a 2-night biography of Kiss. It's 4 hours long. I actually, for those of you who don't know me, I work with Bruce Kulick, who was a member of Kiss for years. I do a lot of work with him. He's in it. He was interviewed for it. So he doesn't know how much he's in it. He hasn't seen it yet. So we're excited to see that come out. So, but yeah, they're coming. The biography is going to air. I'm looking forward to that. So good. You know, there's a lot of buzz around Kiss right now. The tour is restarting. Knock on wood. And
so set your VHS for Sunday night. Exactly.
So, and if you don't have A&E or you don't, you know, aren't around, these have been showing up on Netflix as well. So I think it'll probably show up on there. If you doubt how serious Kiss, all this is, Kiss just canceled paid meet and greets. Yes. Do you know how things exactly? That if they turn down any money, and actually, God love them, they just announced, so they have this package for their new tour where you get a VIP experience that has never been done before. You can watch the show from the pit, which basically means you're standing like this all night, so that's not that great of a thrill. And you got like a backstage tour, and previously, pre-COVID, you got to hang out with them for a while. They did like a private meet and greet. And so they sold, I think, 15 of these as a max per show. I want to say most shows they only did maybe 5 of them. In some markets they did bigger. But, you know, people who went had a great time. They got some exclusive merchandise. They got some one-on-one hang time with the band, and you get a photo made with them, which is something they've been doing for a long time. But they've cut the meet and greet portion out for these next few dates. So the original show, the VIP package originally was $6,000 per show. Now they're only $4,000 to not meet them, but get to stand in the pit. So if you want to spend that money, all power to you. But I just find it hysterical that they don't miss a beat. But yeah, so I don't know what they're doing. I think a lot of bands are canceling meet and greets. Is this Kiss's farewell tour? That is a very good question. It is supposed to be. It's their second one, though. I mean, this fucking record from 2001 was recorded on the farewell tour. That's all I can tell you. Yes, I think it is. They're kind of getting old. They're not able to really, Gene will be 72 3 days before they come to Raleigh. And it's just not as easy anymore. So I think, they're going to stop touring. I think that you will see them do, 3 of them happen to have just moved to a city that is known for residences. I think you will probably see a residence happen in Vegas be in the next little while. So we'll see.
I have a question for you. Hello, Kurt. How are you? Do you think that Kiss will continue and they will have different people out there playing their songs touring under the supervision of Gene and Paul?
Yes. No and yes. I think there will be an authorized Kiss show of some sort of like the Rain Beatles show that tours around, which is not really authorized by the Beatles, but obviously they don't care. But like, I think there will be something to that end where they will control it. It will play small. I don't think you'll see it be an arena band with, selling 20,000 seats or anything. Maybe, what I think they're going to do, and this is just my guess, is they're going to set up shop in Vegas where they'll play occasionally and they'll have other people come in and play. Either they'll have their own theater like Alabama did in Myrtle Beach, or they'll have some deal where they play occasionally. And that would be where I could see them having a other Kiss kind of like Foreigner does now, where Mick Jones comes out and plays some shows with them, but doesn't do all of them. Who knows? I don't think they'll stop by any means. Ricky Medlock from Blackfoot has done that too. So how many original members are in the band too? So Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, who have been there for all, and there's a guy from Blood, Sweat and Tears does that as well. Yeah, no original members. He supervises everything. Like I say, Ricky Medlock from Blackfoot did the same thing and got new guys in. And I mean, Ricky's in Leonard Skinner, who just decided they're not stopping. They're going to keep going. But Ricky, being committed to Leonard Skinner, has been doing that with Blackfoot for a while. But again, clubs, not arenas. I can't imagine a non-original Kiss. I see it as more of something that would come to DPAC, like Get the Lead Out, the Pink Floyd shows, those kinds of level of shows where you would go and see a Kiss performance, probably in a venue big enough to allow at least some pyro and stuff, because that's such a big part of their act. Speaking of which, if you want to read an absolutely horrifying book, it's not very new, but I read it recently. It's called Killer Show, and it details the fire that happened with Great White at the station in Rhode Island back in 2003 that killed so many people. And it is absolutely terrifying because, I mean, a lot of us, I know, Tony that's on here would agree. We could have all been those people at one point, in a club with a band shooting off pyro, and it burns down and you're dead. And it gets you it's very close to, I mean, it actually kind of, I said Monday, I wish I hadn't read this book just because it had kind of affected me so much reading it and learning about that. So, you're right. And so these bands like Get the Lead Out and stuff, they're doing rules with pyrotechnics. Yes. But you can also blow up things without without any permission, which is actually what Great White did. And Sean, I'm sorry to hear that. That was just a terrible time. Like I say, when I read it, I remember that day just not even being able to hardly function when it happened, just because it was, like I say, the bus that Great White was on that burned up in the fire, was damaged from the fire. I was on that bus 3 months before that, when it was Vince Neil's. So, yeah. Anyway, tough time, or tough book to read. Yeah, I think, you might see an authorized, because I don't think Gene and Paul are going to do anything without putting their name on it or having some control over it. But you'll see like an authorized touring Kiss group of some sort. That's my guess is what they'll do. But only when they've absolutely run all the gas out of the tank and they're not doing it much anymore, or maybe doing it occasionally.
Wow.
So, couple more vinyl things. This is a newer issue. This is one of those things that when I talk about, it's just cool vinyl. This came out of Germany a few months ago, actually very recently. It's you can kind of tell it's like a foil cover. This was a compilation that came out in the early 80s called Killers that had 4 new tracks on it. It was kind of they did that album, The Elder, which was a concept record and sold, I don't know, I bought it and maybe 5 other people. And so the record company was like, well, until you get a new overseas, like until you get a new record out, we want something to come out in between with some of your old songs. And we want some new rock songs to prove that you're still a rock band. So they recorded this. It was released in every country almost, I think, except the US, just about. And it was, so also I mentioned in 2014, they did the reissues. They also did a box set that had all of the vinyl in it. It came in like a road case, and it had all of the compilations were not reissued. So like Double Platinum, this one, and some others, they were not reissued as part of where you could just buy them individually. They came as exclusives in the box set. So this one was one of the ones that came as an exclusive in the box set. So in order to issue it and not piss off everybody who bought those, it had to be pretty special or different. So this is actually the first half-speed mastered Kiss record. So it plays at 45 RPM. It's based on the original Japanese pressing of the record. So it has this little insert and a sticker, and it's on very bright pink vinyl, which is quite cool. So it's a really neat repressing of this. And I think it's kind of hard. It did sell out. I think there were like 4,000 of them. They're actually numbered. They're still pretty, you can get them still, I'll say, and I would say it's definitely worth it. So Sean says, what would be interesting to see if Kiss will continue to have an authorized version that's overseen? Oh, for sure. I think they will continue and the other thing is, you got to think about, if you've been to a Kiss show in the last 10 years or so, the average age for a Kiss audience is 16 years old. So that's taking the oldest person and the youngest person and averaging it out. So yeah, they have a lot of young fans. You see people bringing their grandchildren now, and if you think about the reunion tour, which was for us that were Kiss fans for a long time, seems like, recent Kiss history. That was 25 years ago. In fact, 6 days from now, it's 25 years ago from the first show. So, you got people who weren't even born yet when they reunited and put the makeup back on. And you've got people, Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer have been the members in Kiss since 2002. So, well, Peter came back in 2006. It was 2004, we'll say they came back for real. But, that is a long time, almost 20 years where this band has been the band for Kiss. And so, there's a lot of people who were never born that have never seen any of the people you've seen on these records. And so, if they're 5 years old now and they go, or they're 10 years old, say, and, they really remember, I went to see this band called Kiss. Yeah. 50 years from now, I can totally see somebody going to see a Kiss show of some ilk. Ace lasted longer than Peter did. Yes. Ace, made it until the end of the farewell tour. And then Peter actually came back. So that was an interesting story when they did the Aerosmith and Kiss tour. The promoters insisted that there be 3 original members. So they called and begged Ace to come back, and he didn't want to. And so they begrudgingly had to get Peter back. So, which Eric was not thrilled with, as you can imagine, because he was in the band from 92 to 96. He was let go when the reunion happened. He came back to fill in for Peter for the end of the farewell tour, and then for several events in 2002. And then all of a sudden, well, guess what? You're not in the band again. And then it didn't work out so great with Peter. So they finally told the promoters, look, we're only doing this our way. And they got Eric back, and he's been there ever since. So,
Oh, that's good.
yes.
I'm sure he was compensated
sometimes, but
I'm sure he was compensated during that time off.
by whom? The other people he was playing with, maybe, not by Kiss.
Not by Kiss?
Not working. Yeah. He wasn't under contract. Not until, yeah. So this is a kind of cool record, a little south of Mexico, but this is from Brazil. Interesting in the sense that it has no Kiss logo on it, but it's a Kiss EP from it was done right around the time Casablanca Disco Promotional, it says, around the time they toured down there, and it does have their logo on the back. It's just 3 songs. This came out when they toured South America in 1983, and was just done as a promotional item. And it's just, I like 12-inch singles. I think they're cool. And I just, Kiss is one of the few bands, not really that unusual for metal to not have too many B-sides. Like Kiss doesn't have many unreleased tracks, if you will. And pardon me, I'm going to move this stack so I can stack other stuff. Kiss doesn't have a ton of unreleased songs, and certainly not many studio cuts and stuff. So they didn't really record B-sides. They didn't even really record live tracks as like extra songs. So the 12-inch singles for them are kind of interesting in that they don't really have anything, unique. Where if you have a pop band or a pop artist, a lot of times, they have more 12-inch mixes. Sometimes the singles are longer than the albums they put out because there's so many mixes of songs. Mm-hmm. But I like them for like the artwork and stuff. So I've collected a few Kiss 12 inches over here. I have another one here. So we're kind of moving into the non-makeup era. And this one is from the Lick It Up tour. This is another bootleg. It has the distinction, apparently, of being the first Kiss bootleg that was made with a color cover. All the other ones were like we saw earlier with the photocopied cover. And this came in a batch of records I got, and it was cool. There were several bootlegs, and it's on nice red vinyl here. So just kind of an interesting piece, just because it's the first. It's a Lick It Up show. I forget where this one's from, but it's pretty cool, and it sounds pretty good too. So this is an interesting 12-inch. Speaking of 12-inch singles, this is the Thrills in the Night. This was done as a fan club issue. You notice there's a hole cut out here, and I have the record over here. The labels had like photos of the band on it, so it was cut out to be. But there's a 12-inch and a 7-inch version of this, and they're pretty hard to find. So again, I think if you're Kiss fans, I think go in waves of what they collect, right? I mean, or at least I do. I was like, I got to get all the Japanese pressings and one of each album. And now, okay, I want to get all the 12-inch singles. And some collecting waves are cheaper than others for sure. Like some of them, it's just I need to get it, and you just find it and order it. Others, you're looking for years to find it, and then you have to pay a lot for them depending on what you're looking for. So this is one. Here's another one that's kind of interesting from Brazil, actually. Came out in 85. The only Kiss album cover, I believe, with Mark St. John on the cover. So Mark St. John came and went very quickly around the Animalize era. So he's pictured on this, and I guess there's a couple songs from Animalize on this, but he was in the Heavens on Fire video and then could not continue with them because of an illness. And so Bruce Kulick, who came in to the band and started playing with them initially as a sub for Mark. And then he wound up being the full-time guitar player for about 12 years. But Mark never made it onto the front of an album cover because the Animalize album is the only one he plays on. He's not on the front cover. He's on the back cover. But this compilation that came out of Brazil has him on the front cover, and it's an interesting. It's one of those that's like hard-ish to find. Yeah. Does this one does say that I love it loud on it, but there was a bootleg that said, Dio just commented, I love it loop, which is one, and Like a Diamond was another one instead of Black Diamond. But there's some really interesting songs on this record. Like the track listing it's supposed to be a compilation like a greatest hits, but they're not singles. They're good songs. So it's a really interesting mix of songs. So that one's kind of cool to have just for the fact that it's a Brazilian only compilation and that it's got some interesting songs. So one I want to show, we talked about this last time, but this one has become quite a collectible record now. This is the repressing of Creatures of the Night. So original cover had the band in makeup. I'm sure everybody's seen it with the glowing eyes. Was for the longest time the one everybody wanted. In 1985, right after Animalize was pretty big hit and Lick It Up, and the band had dropped the makeup, they felt like, okay, Creatures of the Night was the last album we did in makeup. People were saying we were an old hat makeup band, so let's put the album out again with the current band on it, a non-makeup photo, and see if more people buy it. Because they thought it deserved a second shot, because it's a really good record. It is one of their strongest albums. Changed the track listing a little bit as far as the order of the songs, not the songs themselves. Remixed a couple tracks. This came out, and a lot of Kiss fans were like, screw that record. I don't want, why did they put, and the interesting thing is, so this is Bruce Kulick here. He doesn't play on the record. Neither did Ace Frehley, who's pictured on the original cover. So the actual guitar players on the record, Bruce's brother was at least partly involved with it. Although he said he can't really find anything where Bob played on it, but Bob claimed to have played on it. But anyway, there were a bunch of guitar players that wound up on that record, including Vinnie Vincent, who wound up in the band for a couple of years. But it does hold the distinction of having two records released, and neither time did the original member, the guitar player, appear on the cover that plays on the record. But anyway, so this record now has become really sought after in like a year. You could get these for about $30 a year ago. Now they're going in the $100 to $150 range. I was talking to Bruce a couple weeks ago, and he's like, I was telling him about, I'm like, that Creatures With You on it is really getting crazy. He's like, yeah, I saw that. And he's like, and I'm like, well, don't think it's because you're collectible or anything. It's just because everyone already has the first pressing, and now they're trying to track down the second one. Like, they all have the original records. Now they're trying to fill the gaps in their collection. But this one is getting hard to find. So,
wow,
for whatever reason.
Wow. It's kind of like the Yardbirds. I mean, their records are a big mess like that.
Did they reissue covers and stuff?
It's just, you look at it, you have no idea who's on it, who's not on it.
So this is kind of an interesting one. This one's actually from Mexico. It is the Killers record that I showed you a little while ago, that compilation. This was the reissue of that in Mexico in 1985. So it's just called, I don't want to mess this up, but it's not called Killers. I'll say that in the back. But it's the same track listing as the Killers record in the back, non-makeup photos. So it was an effort to kind of to do that. So I do want to, I'll show two more from Kiss, and then we'll go to something else and then come back maybe to them. Here's a really rare 12-inch. In fact, Bruce was at the house a couple years ago, and I have a photo of him like holding this record because he doesn't have this. It's a 12-inch of one of their songs, All Night, which was never released in many places as a commercial single. And this is, I think, there might be one other 12-inch of this, but this is certainly one of the only 12 inches that was released of that. I think this is from the Netherlands. And what's interesting is the cover photo is actually, it's the back cover of Asylum is what the artwork is there. And then that's the front cover of Asylum. But the photo itself is actually of a cardboard stand-up that was available in like record stores. When you go to record stores and they have big displays. So if you look at the bottom here, it's just a photo of this cardboard stand-up. And that was the cover they used for the 12-inch. I guess they didn't have any pictures of Kiss to use. Here's another one that's pretty hard to find. Another compilation. And the thing with compilations is, of course, if you have the Kiss records, you don't need to buy the compilations that much. And so this one was one that came out of Australia. It was sold on TV. So Kiss was really big in Australia in 1980. They did quite a bit of business down there, and they were really popular for a while. And I think, honestly, this was 85 that this came out. I think this was more of an operate or a chance to cash in on that 5 years ago history. Like, oh, here's that band you remember from 5 years ago. And it was like a K-Tel record, right, that they sold on TV at night. It was only sold through, and it was authorized. But I think the cheesiness of the ad, and at some point Kiss went, we really don't want our records being sold as seen on TV records. So it was pretty much only available for a very short time and pulled. So it's called the singles. And it doesn't lie. It's all the singles that were released in Australia. Nothing special on it. I mean, as far as the tracks, they're all the same, standard versions of the songs. I got excited because I had seen one place. There's a version of I from The Elder, which is on here, that has a different lyric. They substituted a lyric on it. And I heard it was on this record, but it's not. It's the regular album version. But anyway, hard to find record. So the singles out of Australia, that's one that's hard to come by. My last one I'll show you before I switch to other bands that I wanted to show you, because there's a couple bands I really want everybody to check out. But this is another bootleg. Now, this is one I recently got. It's from the Hot in the Shade tour, even though the photo is not. This one is one that I had searched for about 20 years, wanting to get a copy of this. The Hot in the Shade tour was the first Kiss show I ever saw back in 1990. I love that show. This is a great sounding bootleg. I had the CD. I've had the CD forever. I've been looking for the vinyl, though. 25 years since it came out, basically, and finally found one. And so anyway, just one of the only, I think the only bootleg from the Hot in the Shade tour from around the time of the tour. So that came out in 1991. There are others that have come out since then, but for vinyl, that was the only one. So despite what I've been talking about for so long, I do like other bands and other music. And so I know the last time people were like, what do you like? Or are there other bands you like? So I do have a few little rare pieces from other bands. The first one, anybody in North Carolina, I hope you know this band. I just discovered these guys in COVID times. They did an event for Duke University because they actually went there and formed right after graduating from there. It's 3 siblings and some other guys. It's a band called Delta Ray. Not Kiss-like at all. Amazing band. In fact, way better of a band than anything Kiss has ever done, honestly, as far as musicianship and stuff. So it's 2 brothers, a sister, another friend of theirs, and then a drummer and a bass player that they met here in North Carolina. Actually from here. The drummer's from Apex, the the bass player is from Garner. They are amazing. They have 4 albums plus some, EPs and stuff. This is their last vinyl record that I have because they just put a new record out. And the other interesting thing about this band is that they were signed to a major label. They were signed to Sony, I believe. They put out a couple records as usual, got dropped or whatever. Went to that Big Machine group, which is the group that Taylor Swift was a part of, and Sugarland, a lot of country bands. And they put out several singles through them during that time. And you can really tell when you listen to those songs, they're good songs, but they definitely tried to polish them. They have 4 singers, the 2 guys and 2 girls sing. They all trade lead vocals. And so all the songs that came out of the Big Machine era were sung by the girls because they were trying to push them as this, cutesy country group. They're not. And so they kind of have all kinds of blends. So they went independent, and they happened to have the good fortune of going independent right as Taylor Swift left Big Machine and all of that happened, and she went independent. And so they did a Kickstarter, and the Swifties helped them fund their, it got wind of it anyway. That was like, oh, here's a band that got screwed like Taylor. Let's help them. They had asked, I believe it was for $15,000 to make their next record. And they said, if we get $30,000, we'll make 2 records. We'll make a brother and sister record or sister records. And they got $535,000 on their Kickstarter. And so they made The Light, which came out last year in 2020. And this is actually a test pressing of that one. So this was kind of cool, signed by the guys in the band. And then recently, and I only have, sorry to break the vinyl streak, but I only have the CD because the vinyl is still being pressed, The Dark. So they have The Light and The Dark. So these are the CDs of that. Every song that this band has ever recorded is a great song, in my opinion. Like they don't have any bad songs, which is really rare for any band. And they're not all the same. You can listen through an album and it's not going to be very, so Twisted Sister Records. I'm hoping that's TS.
Taylor Swift.
So yeah, Taylor Swift. Oh, Taylor Swift. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift Records. Yeah. She's got some, new stuff coming out too, but I like all kinds of music. Delta Ray is kind of in the country, folk, gospel, rock, blues vein. I mean, they kind of do a little bit of everything. Check out, go on YouTube, check them out. They have a lot of great songs. They have some really interesting videos too. They do really great music videos for being like they do it all themselves. It's not like a big shop that is behind them. Going way back old school.
Yeah, let's say hello to Sean. Hey, Sean. Sean's in Australia, so Sean's going to mail me some of those Kiss records from Australia.
Yes, Sean, mail him a couple copies of that singles record. That'll make his year. Here's an old school Def Leppard picture disc. I just like this from Hysteria.
Hysteria.
That's just one. There's a funny story to tell about that, about where I got that and who I got it from a certain person in Greensboro that we won't talk about a whole lot, but it was an interesting story. I bought it after being in that store for a long time. The person didn't really want to sell it, I don't think. And so happened to get another one in and it doubled in price. So I don't think he's going to sell it.
I love that guy, Michael. I don't mind if you share the name. A lot of people are like, the devil's in there, I'm staying away. But I love the guy. I think he's awesome.
Oh, he's amazing. So if you go to this store in Greensboro, there is a Hysteria if you want one, but you're going to pay double what I did. So this is one that came from Kirk, actually. Motley Crue's Decade of Decadence. Mm-hmm. Not an easy record to find. Big Motley Crue fan, obviously. And then this was cool just because it's one came out in 91, 92, and not an easy record to find on vinyl. So there's a kind of rare Motley Crue one. Another band that I love, Savatage, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of, spawned a group called the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, which is the annual Christmas show. This is one of their non-Christmas records, Beethoven's Last Night. This one's pretty hard to find now. Actually looks like Dio on the cover, I think, playing this is the devil, but it looks like Dio. And not Ronnie James Dio, our friend Dio. And then this is another one of their non-holiday records called Night Castle, which is a really cool set. It makes me sick when bands do like super nice packaging, because Kiss never does anymore. This has like a huge book in it, and has these nice gatefold fold out record covers with the artwork in it for 4 LPs of the beautiful set. You can usually get that still at their shows, so it's worth picking that up. And then another guy I really love, another artist I like a lot, Butch Walker, who I think I mentioned last time. This is one of the rare pieces of his vinyl. It's a record he did back in 2008 called Sycamore Meadows. And this is a super hard record to find. In fact, when I found out how hard it was to find, I did not open mine. It's still sealed. So it's on red vinyl. Has become very difficult to pick this sucker up, though. But Butch is another one of those guys that he produces a lot of artists. So Butch is the kind of guy that you'll hear his name more than you know his music. But he's a really great singer and songwriter and producer and everything else. And my last other band, this just came out. This is another very, very, very small CD packaging here. It's a guy named Caleb Johnson. He actually won American Idol, but don't hold that against him. He's made a couple records. He's from Asheville, North Carolina, actually. And this is his last CD. It just came out last Friday. It's more of an EP, honestly. It's like 7 songs, but he went in the studio with Audley Freed from Cry of Love, who's from Raleigh, guy who's played with a bunch of people. Jason Bonham plays drums on it. He has Damon Johnson from Brother Kane is on it. So it's a very, if Leonard Skinner made a record right now and it was a good one, it would sound like his record. So he has a lot of great backup singers, like a really great trio of female backup singers that kind of do that Skinner vibe. And every song on that one too is like, there's only 7. And there's actually a couple covers. He does that old song Drift Away, which I'm sick to death of, but he actually makes it listenable. And he did one called that old Rare Earth song, I Just Want to Celebrate. He does a cover of that. And both of those are phenomenal. Or all of it. The whole record is well worth it. Again, it's something you can check out. I think he's done a video for all but one of the songs on YouTube. Check them out. If you like it, please order his CD and support the guy. He actually sings with Trans-Siberian Orchestra now too. So he tours with the East Group with them when they tour, and also plays. He's from North Carolina, so he plays around. I'm hoping he'll do some live shows somewhere nearby.
Absolutely, yeah.
Couple more Kiss things, real quick. This is the Revenge reissue that came out in 1995, I believe, 94, 95. Because there was that period where vinyl was not being issued in the US. It was only a really couple years, and then it kind of got this cult status and started being reissued. So Revenge, which was released in 92, was never released on vinyl here in the States when it first came out. So around 94, 95, they reissued it with on blue marble vinyl, which is the one I have, and gray marble vinyl. I don't have the gray one. I have the blue one. These are super hard to find now, ridiculously hard, actually. And a lot of stuff. And here's another one, also Alive 3, which came out in 1993, was not issued on vinyl when it first came out. So they reissued that. Kiss did conventions in 1995 and toured around where they played Unplugged. It actually was what spawned the MTV Unplugged show. And they played shows and had a booth, of course, to sell their stuff. And these were for sale there. They did them on red, white, blue, and black vinyl, and they were numbered. So the black ones, I'm not sure I don't think the red, white, and blue came out first, and then later the black ones did. I don't know if the black ones are numbered, and I don't have a black one. I have a red, white, and a blue. This happens to be one of the red ones, but the original pressing of this is super hard to find and expensive. And now the 2014 pressing of that record is super hard to find and expensive. So that record's just not easy to find on vinyl, I guess. And finally, this is one of the more recent reissues. So a large retailer who shall not be named has gotten into the colored vinyl business lately and has been putting out, exclusives of different records. And so they put this one out. This is a more recent Kiss compilation that came out. And they did a Love Gun one, and they did this one. And they did a Destroyer Resurrected vinyl recently. This one just came out a few weeks ago. And the one thing that's cool, it's the standard, again, shit artwork with Kiss, but they did a really cool red and yellow splattered vinyl. And the vinyl looks very cool. It looks like you, I don't know, crushed a tomato or something and splattered it. But cool new version. So that's out now.
Do you think that pressing is going to increase in value?
Yes, maybe. It's hard to tell with some of these that come out like that through major stores. Like, even if they did one per store, that's 10, 12,000 copies. That's a lot of records, The original, and I think all 3 of the records that have come out through them are still available. Maybe not, can't just walk in and get them, but they turn up every once in a while at different stores, or secondary market on those has stayed relatively low. Where and the Kiss colored vinyl reissues are really tough too. Honestly, anything new, I would say buy it because you want it first, not because it's going to be, your retirement fund. Really any vinyl or any record or anything that you enjoy, buy it because you enjoy it, not because, if you can see some of the merchant stuff in here. I don't have a ton of Kiss merchandise. I don't buy everything that has their name on it. I buy the stuff that I like, and the music is the biggest thing for me. So I think, yes, those might go up in value. Some of the colored vinyl has become quite expensive. Some of the 2014s, like I say, Unmasked, Creatures of the Night, Alive 2, those have become pretty hard to find and are going, I see the Psycho Circus, and I'll pull it real quick. I'll pull both of these. So Psycho Circus was an album that never came out on vinyl. It was reissued in 2014, and it had the CD cover had this lenticular effect on it. So they did it on the vinyl, which is kind of cool. You can kind of see it as I move it around here. I'm watching the video to make sure you can kind of catch that, but it's a neat cover, neat album cover. This one is really hard to find now because it was pressed once with the lenticular, and then they've repressed it now with just a flat cover. So this is what you get now if you order Psycho Circus. So the lenticular one has sprung up in value in the last probably 6 months to be over $100 record now. Crazy. And like the colored vinyl that they did of like Alive, which was last year, the colored vinyl they did of Unmasked last year, both of those have gone pretty high in value or are sold out and selling. The Killers that I showed you, like I said, that one sold out. It's on. There were 4,000 of them made. There was a double platinum back in 2019 that had like silver vinyl that came out of Germany. That was the first one the Germans did, exclusive. That has gone up in May. So a lot of, buy it first, and you're going to pay a certain amount just to get them now. It's going to be $40 or $50 for the record to buy it. So yes, it may go up to $100, but you're doubling, maybe your money. You're not, like I say, I wouldn't buy them as an investment as much as like, I like this, I want it. I will say on the colored vinyl in particular, buy it when it comes out if you want it, because they do tend to sell out. They're getting ready to do another one from Germany. I'm not sure what it is. I have an idea. I've heard some rumblings of that. They're going to be doing, what else was it that they had coming out? I'm wondering if they will do a 40th anniversary of The Elder this year, because they hate that record. It only sold, a very small amount of copies, but it's got enough of a cult following. I can see them doing something, and they don't really have. This is one of those weird off years where there aren't many anniversaries for them. So
I think it will be good if they do, if there is a reissue of The Elder, because so many people want to get that record. Yeah.
I said they should press it on gold vinyl because that's the only way it's ever going to go gold.
There you go. Well, cool.
But
well,
and
Michael,
I'll show you guys real quick here. I'll turn the camera. This is this photo on my wall here is actually, it's kind of hard to see, but it's actually got like little jewels and things like that on it. And that was actually done by Bruce Kulick's wife. She does these prints, and she actually does a lot of like old Hollywood stuff. And she does some of the Kiss stuff though. And so last Christmas I had her do that for me. So
nice.
That's a cool, yeah. So Lisa, you can find her. And if you, Kurt, I know you have Bruce's site up. I will plug him. Go check out brucekulick.com for all things Bruce Kulick. He's done some amazing stuff in the last year, and he couldn't watch tonight. And but I'm going to plug him anyway, and I'm going to say I'm very proud of him. he's been doing a lot of videos and stuff. He recently did an amazing tribute to his brother Bob, who passed away last year suddenly, and it was quite a year. But he did this incredible retrospective of Bob's career that you can go out on YouTube and just search for, like, Bob Kulick Memorial, or it's called Larger Than Life, because Bob played on that song on Kiss's Alive 2 album. And Bruce is like embraced, and I love that about him. He's totally embraced, like, learning how to edit videos and do all this stuff that he'd never done before. And he did a fantastic job. I helped him get some archives and stuff, and helped him out a little bit with it. But he put it all together. He's done some other stuff. He's very active in like his YouTube content. Again, brucekulick.com. If you want a KISS member who's actually a real person and is easy to communicate with, and also just a really amazing person, a great guy, and has some great stuff, some great music and stuff. Check his stuff out for sure. And Delta Ray, like I say, check them out. Like I said, they got a big Kickstarter, but it's a struggle for any independent act. And so, that Bob Kulick is, and that's the thing, like, I learned things in the Bob Kulick tribute. I didn't know some of the artists Bob had played with, and even Bruce didn't know until he started digging into the things. And he was sending me, like, he found a photo of, like, a set list for Alice Cooper that was written on hotel stationery from Australia, because Bob toured with Alice down in Australia years ago. And just some really neat stuff he found and it's all in the video. Bob played on a Wasp record called Crimson Idol. That's a really well-known, great record. Played with Meatloaf. So yeah, check that out for sure. It's a 20-minute about video, and it feels like it's 5 minutes. And honestly, watching it, it's amazing. And so kudos for Bruce, not only for, doing a great tribute to his brother, but also, like I say, learning all that and proving that you're never too, set in your ways or learn. He's been a guitar player and this professional musician for years, and then he's like, okay, I need to learn how to do this, and he did it. So that's, to me, inspirational on its own, to be able to do that and learn something new.
Well, thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Michael, thanks for hanging out with us. We'll
yes,
have to do it again.
I was happy to be here. I hear you're doing a record sale.
I'm going to do a record sale in just a few minutes. I got to go pull some records. So,
all right,
it's going to be at 9:25. Hope you guys can join me. Have a wonderful
tonight.
There you go. All right. Well, take care, Michael. Thank you, everybody. Stay right there, Michael. Okay, great. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.